And I was saying, welcome to an N5D one-on-one. And today my guest is Micah Dank. And he is a former 32nd degree Master Mason who began questioning the deeper meaning behind ancient religious texts and symbolism. He says that the Bible and other holy books were never meant to be taken literally, but symbolically, and that this understanding has been deliberately obscured over time. He presented his research to his own Masonic lodge and later to the Grand Lodge in New York City, where it was ultimately removed for being too risky and too revealing. Shortly after, he had to leave the fraternity. Whether you agree with his conclusions or not, his experience raises serious questions about who decides what knowledge is acceptable and what remains hidden. And on that note, I'm welcoming aboard Micah. Hey,
Thank
Micah.
you. You got that correct. That's exactly what happened. That's exactly the only thing is that I had been questioning religion since I was a kid.
Me
It wasn't
too.
just when I was in the lodge.
Oh, yeah.
I was raised in a religious household,
Yep.
and my parents are still religious, and
Yep. What
yeah,
denomination?
Jewish,
Okay.
uh,
Methodist for me.
conservative Jewish. Yeah. So I can remember being 9 years old in temple, and it just everything being dumb, and it was only when I started really researching it that I was able to find some answers. And what I've done here that I'm about to do, you've already seen the presentation, is I've taken about 14 years. I discovered this in 2012. I've taken 14 years worth of research and I've boiled it down into two 90-minute presentations. So that's a lot of stuff that I'm going to be throwing at you guys. So I
It's
really hope you enjoy this.
I
Um,
learned a lot actually,
yeah,
and we've both studied under the same people. We were
yeah.
talking about Santo Spinaci and Jordan Maxwell.
Yes,
And
those were my mentors. Yes. And I'm continuing their work.
awesome. Now, before we get started, at what point did you realize the symbolic interpretations you were studying conflicted with how most people understand religion?
Immediately.
So that was as a child then.
It was like when I first discovered Santos's work, it wasn't so much like I felt like I was learning something new that just made a whole bunch of sense. I felt like I was remembering something I forgot.
That makes sense. That makes sense. Were these interpretations that you learned taught formally, or hinted at informally, or discovered independently, or
No.
a combination of all?
No, most of this stuff is just what I figured out. I would say 90% is what I figured out. 10% is from Jordan and Santos, and I'll give them credit when it comes up.
Right. Perfect. Was the resistance you faced about accuracy or about perception and reputation?
Uh, a lot of religious people tell me that it deepens their faith. I'm like, yeah, but they tell you astrology is evil and illegal and all this kind of stuff. How does it deepen your faith? It's just the cognitive dissonance that they can't get through. Their brains short wire when they hear what I talk about.
I
You
could
know,
imagine.
that's what basically happens.
Yeah,
It was never meant to be taken literally, and I'm going to show you 6,000 years worth of that history in 90 minutes.
I would agree with that statement 100%. So, without further ado, I am going to get off the screen and let you go to it. If you have any questions, I'll pop back on.
Sounds good. All right, let's get started, guys. So, the Bible, the scriptures, and I'm going to draw all over my presentation, by the way, guys. The scriptures are metaphysical, astrological, and that's what I'm going to be sharing with you. Anatomical, alchemical, spiritual, esoteric, and mythology. They are not literal, they are not historical, they are not reality, and they are not original. Now, my goal for you guys is to just show you the astrological, and it's not even the whole astrological thing, it's just basically a part of it. If I can convince you that the Bible is not meant to be taken literally through my astrological work right here, Then I open the idea that you can be open to the metaphysical, the anatomical, the alchemical. It might help you break through the religious packaging and the paradigms. So I'm going to read you something ahead of time because I've done this presentation so many times and I've shared this so many times that I just basically have it down to a science. And I know for a fact that you guys are going to start to see what I see. And then your first immediate question is going to be, what's the point? So I'm going to address that now, and then I'm going to repeat this later when we've gone through some of the work so that you understand that it makes more sense. So what is the point of this? We take for granted that we have calendars, clocks, watches, weathermen. The ancients didn't have any of that. They had sundials. In the Bible, they worked on dream interpretations for harvest. They had to know things. They needed to know Taurus was when you put the plow on the bull and plant, as above, so below. The Bible is an encoded farmer's almanac and was the knowledge of staying alive, the most important thing. They would look at the stars and see all this movement and make stories up about them and pass them down to their children, then them to their children, etc. Eventually, they learned how to write and wrote them down, and it evolved from Sumerian to Babylonian to Egyptian to Judaism in the Old Testament, then to the Christians in the New Testament, then to the Quran. It's in the Gnostic text. It's in the Book of Mormon. It's in the Ethiopian Bible, the Apocrypha, the Colburn Bible. It's in everything, and I'm going to show you that. So I want you to be very familiar with this quote because I'm going to read it to you about 3 or 4 times randomly. My point, once again, is not that those ancient people told literal stories and we are now smart enough to take them symbolically, but that they told them symbolically and we are now dumb enough to take them literally. That's John Dominic Crossan. So this is the zodiac, guys. And I want to show you a couple of things before we even begin. What I want to show you right now is, I got to pick a color first. Hold on. Okay, good. So check this out, guys. If I'm talking about Aries, right here, that's the ram. I can only talk about the ram. If I'm talking about Taurus, that's the bull. I can only talk about the bull. But you see these dividing lines between them? These dividing lines between them are known as a cusp or a handover date. Many of you have probably heard that term, the ones that I'm highlighting right now. What this represents is a 3-day period at the end of one sign and a 3-day period at the beginning of the next sign where the energies blend and hand over to each other. Again, cusps or handover dates. You've heard that. So what I want to explain to you basically is, again, Aries is the ram, Taurus is the bull. If you're in Aries, you can only talk about Aries. If you're in Taurus, you can only talk about Taurus. However, if the story is in the cusp or between the two, I could talk about the ram or the bull. The other thing I want to show you real quick is that, for example, you're talking about Aries right here. There's what's known as connecting signs. That would be Pisces, which is the sign below it, and Taurus, the sign above it. These are known as the connecting signs. So there's 2 connections here. The other connection that you can make with Aries is what's known as the opposing sign, which is when you go across to Libra. Now, what you'll find in my decodings is you'll find that it only makes these patterns. It's never going to go from like Gemini to Aquarius because there's no connection there. It will always be either a connecting sign or an opposing sign. And if you are in between the 2 signs, you can talk about either or. So we're going to use the zodiac wheel as a cipher. So just to tell you guys what I have done, I took Ptolemy's list in 150 AD of the 48 constellations they knew about at the time, because that was biblical time frame right there. And I broke that down as to where they're all located and the keywords. I'm going to teach you that. I didn't use the modern day 88 constellations because they didn't know about them at the time. So I used Ptolemy's list. Each one of these constellations has a keyword or a couple of keywords in it. And I'm going to make that make sense to you. Then what we're going to do is we're going to find patterns. So there's questions you can ask. How Jesus was able to heal the blind. How he walked on water. How he turned water into wine, why he had 12 disciples, why was he betrayed with a kiss by Judas, Why was he dead for 3 days? Why is his birthday on December 25th? Now, guys, all of that is astrology, and I'm going to come back to it and explain it. Genesis 1:14. Let lights appear in the sky to separate the day, that's the sun, from the night, that's the moon. Let them be signs, that's the zodiac, to mark the seasons, days, and years. Exactly. It's a farmer's almanac, like I've been explaining to you guys. Now, each zodiac sign is called a house, or an era, or an eon, or a sign. There are many words for it. You can call it a mansion, too. There's different words that they use to define them. They're known as houses. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to read you guys the 12 zodiac signs. I'm going to explain them to you and explain the keywords. So we'll start with Aquarius. The first sign I talk about is Aquarius, which is represented by the man. Now, technically, Aries begins the year, March 21st, the spring equinox. But I start with Aquarius because Aquarius and Pisces, the next sign over, represent water, and I'm going to show that to you. The story of Aquarius goes back to the story of Zeus and the young boy. So this is one of the early iterations of Aquarius. So the story of Zeus and the young boy basically goes like this. Zeus saw a young boy on Earth that he wanted on Mount Olympus with him. Now, funny enough, guys, I don't know if you know this, but Mount Olympus is actually a real place on Earth. It's a legitimate real place on Earth. And none of the Greeks ever went up to find out if any of the gods were up there. They just assumed that they were, which is weird, right? Anyway, so Zeus wanted the young boy on Mount Olympus, but the boy's father said no. So what happened next was Zeus basically bargained with him, gave him a bunch of stuff. And then the father eventually agreed to let the boy go up. So the boy goes up, and while he's up there, he's feeding the gods something called ambrosia out of this water pitcher that I'm circling right here. Ambrosia was the nectar of the gods. It's what they drank. And he's doing this day in and day out. And he gets so fed up after every day he's doing the same thing. And he's just bored. And he just gets so fed up with it. And remember, he's a young boy too. That he goes to the side of Mount Olympus. And in this water pitcher, he pours the ambrosia out. And what happens is it causes a flood on Earth, which is where the Greeks get their flood story from. Now, Zeus, who's usually a malevolent god, a very angry, unpredictable, sexually deviant, just unpredictable, like bipolar dude, was going to punish him. But in a moment of self-reflection, which was rare for Zeus, what he did was he was like, he thought to himself, I probably shouldn't have brought him up. He's a young boy. He had family. He had friends. He probably wants to be playing. And what he does is instead of punishing him, he immortalizes him in this act of Aquarius right here, the man with the water pitcher pouring it over the edge. So the key words would be man, because Aquarius is the sign of the man, whereas Virgo is the sign of the woman in the zodiac. Baptism, because this is how you baptize someone. Literally, the man with the water pitcher pouring it out. That's how you baptize someone. Water pitcher, because there's a water pitcher right here. Stream, river, pond, lake, ocean, sea. Now, if you know anything about astrology, Aquarius is an air sign. It's not a mutable water sign. However, because of this right here that I'm circling, the liquid right here, they used it to show and explain and keyword in water or water bodies. Whereas Pisces is the sign of the two fish in the water. Pisces is actually a mutable water sign. So this actually makes sense. Stream, river, pond, lake, sea, ocean. So Aquarius water and Pisces water, right? Why would you have two that have water? Well, depending on how they word things in the Bible and in the other holy texts, will tell you if it's Aquarius water or Pisces water. And I'll give you examples of that later. Now, Aries is the ram, and in Aries you have March 21st, which is the spring equinox. It's a 12-hour day and a 12-hour night. There's 3 Passovers that occur in Aries. The first and the oldest is what we celebrate on March 21st, the spring equinox. That's the day that the sun crosses over or passes over from the southern hemisphere to the northern hemisphere. Now things are going to get warmer. The days are going to get longer. The nights are going to get shorter. The Jewish Passover is when the angel of death passes over all the houses in Egypt, and the firstborn son gets killed if they don't smear the lamb, which is a baby ram, or the ram's blood on their doorpost. Why do they smear the ram's blood? Well, Aries is the ram. The Jews are the people of Aries. The Egyptians are the people of Taurus. That's why the Egyptians had plenty of pictures of the bull with the sun between its horns, whereas the Jews are the people of Aries, the ram, which is why the religious Jews blow the ram's horn during the high holidays. It's Aries worship. In Christianity, the passing over is changed, and it's called the resurrection of God's Son, S-U-N. Jesus being the Son of God, not the Son of God. Now, some people say that they're basically the same word, son and son. Some people, it just happened to work out that way, to be honest with you. Just because they're homophones doesn't mean that they were interchangeable. But what I wanted you guys to know is that the story of Jesus is the Son, and I'm going to make a case for that. So the keywords for Aries are the ram, lamb, shepherd, or ram's horn. Now, the other thing, too, is that in Christianity, the passing over is changed, and it's called the resurrection of God's Son. That's Easter. Well, Easter is astrology, too. I don't know if you guys know how to figure out what day Easter is every year, but first you have March 21st. You have to have the spring equinox. Then after the spring equinox, you have to have the first full moon. Then after the spring equinox and after the first full moon, you have to have the first Sunday after the full moon, after the spring equinox. And that day is Easter. That's how you calculate it every year. It's astrology. Now, Taurus is the bull. And this is as above, so below, guys, which is an occult phrase. But the word occult literally just means hidden in Latin. It's as above, so below. You look at the sky and you see the bull. You have to put the plow on the bull on Earth so that you can till the land so you can harvest in Virgo and Libra. Most people don't know what Taurus looks like, but most of you guys know what Orion's belt looks like. Orion's belt is in Taurus. So basically, when you see Orion's belt straight up in the sky, right, April, May, and you see Orion's belt straight up there, that's when you got to plant. We have John Deere equipment that does it now, but back in the day, they used the bull. So whenever you hear bull, ox, calf, or cow being the female bull, that's Taurus. Then Gemini is the twins. It's the story of Castor and Pollux Troy. Remember those names, guys, because I'm going to show you how that works in society. Whose sister was Helen of Troy? It's the story of Achilles. It's another Greek story. So whenever you hear twins or brothers, that's Gemini. So now Cancer is the crab, and the crab in the ancient Egyptian time was known as the scarab. So whenever you hear crab or beetle, that's Cancer. But let me explain to you why. So this is what the sun does every day, guys, that they don't teach you in school. On December 25th, the sun rises a degree on its axis. On December 26th, an additional degree. On December 27th, an additional degree. So every day what happens is the sun, and again, this is not to scale, guys. I'm just showing you what happens. But the sun every day is going to climb an additional degree. What that means is the days are getting slightly longer and the nights are getting slightly shorter. It's getting warmer. Every day a degree. Every day a degree. Then what happens is on the summer solstice of June 21st, the sun is at its height. It's the longest day of the year, the shortest night. It's the first day of summer. Then what the sun does on June 22nd is it's not going to rise an additional degree or lower a degree. But on June 21st, June 22nd to June 25th, for 3 consecutive days after the summer solstice, the sun rises to the identical degree. And that's basically saying that the sun walks sideways, which is why Cancer is the crab, because the crab is the sideways shifting creature. The crab moves side to side, just like the sun does. Now, on June 25th, the sun is going to drop a degree. Then on June 27th, 6th, the sun is going to drop another degree. Now it's doing the inverse pattern. Every day the sun is going to drop an additional degree. Now the nights are getting longer and the days are getting shorter. When the sun hits December 21st, that is the day, the last day of Sagittarius. That is the day that the sun dies because it's the winter solstice. It's the longest night of the year. It's the shortest day of the year. Then what happens is for 3 consecutive days after that, it rises to the same degree. The ancients used to look out on December 21st, out into the sky. The sun doesn't crack the horizon. So they say God's son was dead. And then what happens is it walks sideways like the crab for 3 days. Now suddenly God's son was dead for 3 days. We're on December 25th, or the birth of all the gods, the son comes back to life, the risen Savior, the light of the world, the only begotten Son. So every single day, the sun rises a degree starting on December 25th, then on June 21st, stop, walk sideways for 3 days, now drop a degree every single day. Then on December 21st, stop, walk sideways for 3 days, come back to life December 25th. That's why December 25th is the birth of Christ. That's why December 25th is the birth of every single ancient god. Now, Leo is the king. He's the lion. He's the king of the jungle, the king of the savannah. The ruling planet of Leo is actually the sun. It's the only sign that the sun rules over. So whenever you hear lion, lioness, or cub, that's Leo. Now, Virgo is the woman holding the wheat stalk, which I'm highlighting pink right here. Look, it's a lady holding a wheat stalk. Why? Because back in the ancient times, the virgins would cultivate the wheat in Virgo in order to make the bread for the year. So whenever you hear virgin or woman, because Virgo is the sign of the woman, whereas Aquarius is the sign of the man, woman, virgin, wheat, grain, seed, barley, corn. These are all grainy things that thousands of years ago in the northern hemisphere, which is important, and I'll explain that later, the northern hemisphere part. In the northern hemisphere, this was all harvested. And I'm going to show you, not scripture, but I'm going to show you from an ancient holy text, the wheat, the barley, and the corn, to show you that corn was absolutely harvested back then. Now, Libra is the justice. It's the scales, it's the balance, it's the just one. The reason it's the justice is because it judges God's sun as it passes over, or actually technically passes under the fall equinox and begins its descent into winter, into cold, into death. See, in Aries, the sun passes over from the southern to the northern. But in Libra, September 23rd, the sun passes under from the northern to the southern hemisphere. So all related things. The scales, the judge. Libra is also wine season, which is when you plant for the grapes. In Taurus, you could press the wine here. Libra is also olive oil season. So for Libra, 3 things. All law-related things. So law, judge, justice, the just one, divorce, marriage, court. All wine-related things. Wine, vineyard, wine press, grapes, olive oil. So all law-related things, all wine-related things, and all olive-related things are Libra. Now, if I continue, Scorpio is the scorpion, and he is the betrayer. When a scorpion attacks you, it leaves an imprint in your skin that looks like a pair of lips, and it's why the mafia has the kiss of death. That's where they get it from Scorpio. But the thing is, why is it the kiss of death? Because you look after it attacked you, and it looks like something kissed you on your hand. So a kiss is nice, right? Well, that kiss is full of poison. So there's the betray right there, which is why Jesus betrayed Judas with a kiss, just like the scorpion. So the sun is judged in Libra, and it's betrayed in Scorpio. Then finally in Sagittarius, this is where the bow and the arrow shoot the sun and inflict further punishment on the sun. This is where the sun dies. Why? The last day of Sagittarius is December 21st. The sun is at its lowest point. It's dead. So whenever you hear horse, bow and arrow, or horseman, that's Sagittarius. And I forgot to mention this about Scorpio too, by the way. This is going to be irrelevant halfway. I'm only mentioning this because I want to make one scripture make sense to you later. There's 7 different evolutions of Scorpio, and you can go to an astrologer, they can explain it to you, but you need to know about the scorpion, the snake, the wolf, the eagle, or the dove. I want you to just remember those real quick, or at least, and the phoenix too, to be honest with you. I'm going to explain those to you. And then finally, you have Capricorn. Look at Capricorn right here. It's at the bottom of the zodiac. Now, remember the sun, like I'm showing you right here with these little black dots, a degree a day climbing up what it's doing right here is it's climbing up the metaphorical great mountain. That's what the zodiac is called. And to make its height, walk sideways for 3 days, drop, And what I want you to get out of this is that Capricorn is the goat, because you start the climb. December 25th is a Capricorn. You start the climb in Capricorn, climb up the great mountain. And the goat, or the mountain goat, is the animal that climbs the mountain or starts to climb up the mountain better than any animal. So those are the 12 zodiac signs. So whenever you hear goat or kid, you're talking about Capricorn. So those are the 12 zodiac signs. Those are the keywords. I hope they make sense to you, because they all attach to the signs. Now there's keywords, or let me rephrase. There's names for Jesus that they give in church that are all astrology that they don't even realize, right? They tell you astrology is evil. They don't even realize it. Now, Jesus is the sun. See the sun behind his head? It's always behind his head. In every picture you'll find online, or even baby Jesus in the manger, the sun is always behind his head. It's not a halo. It's the sun, because they're telling you he's the sun. So Jesus, the sun. So when the sun or Jesus is in Capricorn, the sign of the goat, they call him the scapegoat of Israel. When the sun or Jesus is in Aquarius, the sign of the man, he is called the Son of Man. When Jesus or the sun is in Pisces, the two fish, he is the fisher of men. And it's also why he feeds the masses with two fish. Two fish is literally Pisces. When the sun or Jesus is in Aries, the ram, he is the Lamb of God, or the Good Shepherd. Cancer, the beetle, the crab. St. Augustine, the Christian, right? Famously called Jesus the good beetle, because he understood this. When the sun is in Leo, the lion, he is the Lion of Judah. When the sun is in Virgo, the lady with the wheat stalk, Virgo, he's born of a virgin, and he's called the bread of life. Libra is the scales of justice. He's known as the just one. These are all words for him and key words for him that are given to him in church, and people always call him by these monikers, and they don't realize that it's astrology. Now, let me explain something to you real quick about Virgo. Virgo right here is the lady with the wheat stalk, the virgin, okay? The scripture in Micah, the book of Micah, which is my namesake, talks about Jesus coming from Bethlehem. Well, Bethlehem is a city, right? But it's astrology too, because Bethlehem is a combination of two words in Hebrew. Bet means house, and lechem in Hebrew means bread, the house of bread. The Savior will come from the house of bread. Well, who's the house of bread? That's Virgo, the lady with the wheat stalk. So the Savior will come from a virgin. So that's just one example of scripture, of how it basically works. But let me start with some more scripture. Deuteronomy 32. I'm going to highlight these, by the way. He gave them honey from the cliffs and olive oil from the rocky ground. He gave people butter from the herd and milk from the flock. He gave them lambs and goats. They had the best rams from Bashan and the finest wheat. They drank the best wine made from the juice of red grapes. But Jeshurun became fat and kicked like a bull. So let me explain the milk and honey to you. Right here, let me use a different color than black. Hold on. Let's use red. There we go. Okay. Right here, this is the first day of summer. This is the summer solstice. That is the beginning of summer. That's June 21st. In the sign Cancer, right, there is a small group of stars, close-knit like that, called the Beehive Cluster. Now, the Beehive Cluster, if you trace it back even further, its original name was the Manger. Interesting, right? Oh, come on, cat. Okay. Now, if you follow this to its opposing sign, right here, the barrier between Sagittarius and Capricorn, that is the last day of Sagittarius. That is the day of death. That is the first day of winter. In the sign Cancer, you have the center of the Milky Way galaxy, which is where the milk comes from. So from your first day of summer till your first day of winter is your land of milk and honey in the heavens. It's not a place on earth. Now, olive oil, I explained to you, you press the olives in Libra. The lambs are Aries, the goat is Capricorn, the rams are Aries, and the finest wheat, the lady with the wheat stalk, Virgo. The wine and the red grapes are Libra, and the bull is Taurus. There are 10 signs in this one passage. Now, let me show you how this works with the zodiac wheel. Let me show you how you actually do this. Jesus led I'm reading you the Mount of Olives, by the way. Jesus led his disciples to the Mount of Olives after his last Passover. So let me highlight a couple things. We kind of highlight the word olives. After his last Passover, so that he could teach him a few more things, pray, then wait for Judas to betray him. While walking to the Mount of Olives, he gave the parable of the true vine. So check this out. Passover takes place in Aries, right? Where right after that, they walk to the Mount of Olives. Well, who's olives? Olives are Libra, which is law, wine, and oil, remember? So how do you get from Aries to Libra? You go across the zodiac. Now, while they're in Libra, they're waiting for Jesus to betray him. Who's the betrayer? That's the connecting sign Scorpio. So right now you have an opposing sign and you have a connecting sign pattern. But if you read this, it tells you they're waiting for the betrayal. He hasn't betrayed him yet. So you're not in Scorpio. You're still in Libra, which is law, wine, and oil, remember? He gives the parable of the true vine that has to do with grapes. That has to do with the vine. So an opposing sign, waiting for the connecting sign, go back to Libra, and then talk about that. So this is how stuff starts to work. Revelation 4:7, the first living creature was like a lion. The second was like an ox. The third had a face like a man. The fourth was like a flying eagle. The first living creature was like a lion. That's Leo. The second was like an ox. That's Taurus. The third had a face like a man. That's Aquarius. The fourth was like a flying eagle. I'm going to explain why the Scorpio evolves into the eagle right now. In astrology, the scorpion is the belly-crawling creature. It's the lowest form of life on Earth. You know, the first thing in the Garden of Eden that God does after the deception with Adam and Eve, right? He doesn't kick them out first. That's not the first thing he does. He's just like, wait right here. I got to do something first. What he does first is he takes the legs away from the snake to make him slither on his belly. It's a punishment. In Mexico, during Santo de la Muerte, men get on their hands and knees, fully dressed in suits, like brilliant suits, and they crawl on their bellies and their hands and knees to church. It's a punishment. But I showed you that the evolution, or one of the evolutions of the Scorpio, is the eagle. The eagle is the highest flying form of life on Earth. So you go from slithering on your belly, the low form, to the evolution of the highest flying form. So you have Leo, Taurus, Aquarius, and Scorpio, or the eagle. They're the 4 fixed signs of the zodiac. So what does that mean? Well, you have 12 zodiac signs, and you have 4 seasons. So there are 3 signs in each season. So this right here is summer. This is fall. This is winter. This is spring. And I want you guys to be aware of that, because what I'm going to show you now is I'm going to break down summer for you. Okay, so this is summer. Now, the first sign in a season, which would be Cancer, Libra, Capricorn, or Aries, right? This would be the first sign in the season, is known as the cardinal sign in astrology, which is why churches have cardinals. If I were to take one of these signs, you can ask any astrologer out there, they're broken down into 3 10-day segments. And the word for that is deacons, which is why you have deacons and cardinals in church. The first sign is the cardinal sign. The second sign is the fixed sign. The third sign is the mutable water sign. The mutable water sign takes you out of the season. The reason it's fixed, remember, face of a lion, face of an eagle, face of a man, face of a bull. Let me use a different highlighter. These two are opposing signs. These two are opposing signs. The reason it's called the fixed sign, guys, is because it's the second sign in the season. And if you look at how I broke this down, this is the first. It catty corners off spring. This is the second. It leads into fall. Right here is the middle. This is the middle of the season. This is the dead of the season. That's what the four fixed signs are. So if I read this again, the first living creature was like a lion. The second was like an ox. The third had a face like a man. The fourth was like a flying eagle. Either there's going to be a four-headed creature in the heavens, or it's literally just showing you this pattern in the zodiac. It makes an X through the wheel. Ezekiel 10:14. Each of the cherubim had four faces. One face was that of a cherub. The second, the face of a human being. The third, the face of a lion. The fourth, the face of an eagle. They talk about it as the four-headed creature. Now, Revelation 12. A great sign appeared in heaven, a woman clothed with the sun, with the moon under her feet, and a crown of 12 stars on her head. She was pregnant and cried out in pain as she was about to give birth. Then another sign appeared in heaven, an enormous red dragon with 7 heads and 10 horns and 7 crowns on its heads. Its tail swept a third of the stars out of the sky and flung them to earth. So let's make sense of this. First, let me take this. So I can make some more sense out of this for you guys. If I show you on the zodiac, which is what I think I'm going to do for everything, it'll totally make more sense. Okay. So the woman clothed with the sun is a metaphor for the sun clothed in Virgo. It means the sun is in Virgo. Now, if the sun is in Virgo, the moon will be at her feet. So to explain that to you, let me show you this that I just made. There's 12 zodiac signs. There's 24 hours a day in our clock. So the sun spends 2 hours a day in each sign. It's simple math, really. So from here, Capricorn, this is midnight to 2. This is 2 to 4. This is 4 to 6. This is 6 to 8. 8 to 10. 10 to 12. 12 to 2, when the sun is at its height in Cancer, from 12 to 2, right? The sun is the hottest at 12, right? 2 to 4. And then the woman clothed with the sun, 4 to 6. This is 4 to 6 p.m. right here in Virgo. So if it's 4 to 6 right now, I'm in Florida. It's 4:30 right now. I'm looking outside. I can still see the sun. So if I see the sun, that means the moon is metaphorically at her feet, because the moon is technically down. We know that's not true, but you got to think of it like they thought that the sun was up, the moon was down, the moon was up, the sun was down. That's basically what they're saying. Now, another sign appeared in heaven, an enormous dragon. Its tail swept a third of the stars out of the sky and flung them to earth. This is the constellation Draco that I have here on the left. This is its tail. If I were to break it down right here, it's absolutely enormous in the sky. The tail goes from Aries to Sagittarius, which is 4/12 of the signs, or 1/3 of the stars out of the sky. This is star metaphors. That's what it is. Okay, Matthew 10:16. Behold, I send you forth as sheep in the midst of wolves. So be as wise as serpents and harmless as doves. So the sheep is Aries. And the midst of wolves. Well, if you go to the opposing sign, right? Because it's always opposing sign or connecting sign. In Libra, there's a constellation called Lupus, which is the wolf. So be as wise as serpents and harmless as doves. So the dove is an evolution of Scorpio, as I showed you earlier. Now, right here, between Scorpio and Sagittarius, you have a constellation called Ophiuchus. Many people ask me about Ophiuchus all the time. Ophiuchus is in sidereal astrology. It's actually not on the ecliptic. But Ophiuchus is a man holding a basket, and the serpent, if you could see what I'm doing with my hands, the serpent is in the basket, and it's facing Sagittarius, the horse. The head of the snake is facing the horse. So in scripture, which I didn't include here, but I'm just bringing it up now, in scripture, when they say that Dan will be like a serpent, and will the head of the snake will bite the heel of the horse, because the snake is between Sagittarius and Scorpio, and it's facing Sagittarius. So of course the snake's going to bite the heel of the horse and the rider will fall off. So what I want to show you is, behold, I send you forth as sheep in the midst of wolves. So be as wise as serpents and harmless as doves. Opposing sign, and then 3 connecting signs. That's just one tiny, tiny, tiny piece of scripture. So I've given examples of astrotheology in the Old Testament as well as the New Testament. I've been accused of cherry-picking verses from the Bible to prove a point. So let's take a much longer passage, for starters, and see if we could decode it as well. So I'm going to get now to the story of Job, if you just bear with me for just 1 second. Okay, what is the story of Job? Well, Job's a dude that had everything in life. Land, money, a beautiful wife, children, animals. And he was God's most faithful servant. And so Satan got pissed at that, and he was like, look, God, the only reason he loves you is because he has everything. If I start to take things away from him, he'll curse you. And God actually takes the bet, and he says, you know what? You can do whatever you want to him. There's just one caveat, though. You cannot take his life. That was the only thing he told him. You cannot take his life. So, as you can imagine, everything goes away. He loses everything. And at one point, he's sitting down on a rock, and he's like covered in boils. And he's, for like 20 pages in the Bible, calling out to God. It's an enormous section that Job is actually talking to God, begging for him to talk back. God actually replies to Job. And what I'm going to read you is God's reply to Job. And I'm going to show you how that's all astrology too. Job 38:32. The first thing God says when he opens his mouth is, can you lead forth the Mazzaroth? The word Mazzaroth was intentionally untranslated. It wasn't translated because they don't want you to know that the Mazzaroth translates to the zodiac. It's true. Mazzaroth over time becomes Mazalot, which survives in Judaism today as Mazel Tov. And you know how old Mazel Tov must be, thousands and thousands of years. You can only imagine how old the word Mazzaroth is. What does Mazel Tov mean? It means good fortune from the stars. Well, go figure. So what is the Lord's challenge to Job? He says, can you bind the chains of the Pleiades? Can you loosen Orion's belt? Well, now finally someone's openly talking about the celestial metaphors that I've been unpacking for you for the last half hour. Now, the Pleiades are in Taurus, and Orion's belt is between Taurus and Gemini, at the cusp. Can you bring forth the constellation in their seasons, or lead out the bear with its cubs? The constellations are the zodiac above, and the bear and its cubs are Ursa Major, the Great Bear, and Ursa Minor, part of the Big Dipper. That's part of Gemini and Cancer. So look at this, guys. You have Taurus, Gemini, and Cancer. This opens up Job. This is what God says to him. Do you know the zodiac? And then he gives him 3 zodiac signs in a row. Who can tip over the water jars of the heavens? That's Aquarius. Right? The man tipping over the water jar in heaven. It's literally that. Do you hunt the prey for the lioness and satisfy the hunger of the lions? That's Leo. So right now, so far, guys, we have Aquarius right here. And then we have 4 signs in a row. But if you keep reading, who provides food for the raven? That's the constellation Corvus, which means raven and borders Virgo. Do you watch where the doe bears her fawn? That's Mariga, meaning deer, and is located in Orion. Remember, guys, all these constellations that I'm bringing up to you right now were in Ptolemy's list in 150 AD. Okay, I'm not doing anything that wasn't there. Who let the wild donkey go free? That's the constellation called Acellus Borealis, which means donkey and is located in Cancer. Will the wild ox consent to serve you? That's Taurus. Do you give the horse its strength? The horse. So now we know it's Sagittarius, right? But if you keep reading, it drives it in. It laughs at fear, afraid of nothing. It does not shy away from the sword. The quiver, see, they mention the quiver. Now, what is the quiver? Well, the quiver sits on the side of the horse that holds the arrows, because Sagittarius is a man on a horse with the bow and the arrow. Does the eagle soar at your command and build its nest on high? The eagle is Scorpio, evolution. Then can you pull in Leviathan with a fish hook? Leviathan was an ancient fish deity in the Piscean era, which we just left as we're coming into the age of Aquarius. Just like Dagon, just like Mithra. The Pope's hat is called a mitre. It comes from Mithra. It's Dagon worship because if you take the Pope's hat off and you turn it sideways, it looks like a fish head because that's where they get it from. So now that we've went through Job 38:32 and he just answered him, we have these two connecting signs. We have these two connecting signs, and we have these 5 signs in a row. See, this is a simple keyword cipher, guys, based off of Ptolemy's work. For example, Cancer, right? If I wanted to talk or write scripture about Cancer, I could say crab or beetle, right? Obviously, but Salus borealis is also there. That's the donkey. The beehive cluster is there, so I could talk about honey. The bear, Ursa Major and Ursa Minor, are there, so you could talk about the bear. So each one of these zodiac signs holds constellations that are based off of animals or different things that you use to make stories. And what happens is when you do that and you break it down the way it was supposed to, it highlights where it is in the constellation. So number one, you learn the sky, number one. And number two is it highlights where basically everything is. It allows you to learn where the sky is, and it allows you to read this. It allows you to remember where everything is. So now answers to the questions at the beginning. How Jesus was able to heal the blind. Well, Jesus is the Son, remember? So in the story, the blind man comes up to Jesus and he says, "Can you heal me, Father?" And Jesus says, "Sure, with your faith, absolutely." And he touches his eyes, and suddenly the man's able to see. Well, the sun does the same thing too. Right now it's 4:30. I can see outside, but in about 3 hours or so right now, I'm going to look outside, and without artificial light, a flashlight, car lights, street lamps, anything, I can't see. I'm blind. Metaphorically, because everything's a metaphor. What has to happen is the sun has to come back up in the morning and touch my eyes to heal the blind. Now, how he walked on water. We know the story that Jesus walks on water, but the sun does too. Any of you guys ever gone fishing during dusk or dawn? You see the sun walking on water all the time. It dances across the water. Now, the Jews wrote the New Testament in Greek. The Christians didn't write the New Testament. There were no Christians at the time that Christianity was being developed. The Jews wrote it in Greek. Jesus, or Iesous, his name was Christos, or Christ. Guess what? Christos is a title in Greek. It means anointed one or oil. Doesn't oil also walk on water? So you have Jesus walking on water, you have the Son walking on water, and you have Christos walking on water. It's a triple entendre that they have buried there, just waiting for people to figure out. How he turned water into wine, this is actually not a parlor trick. This is actually a process, an astrological process. The reason God is considered a man and Mother Earth is considered a woman has to do with one very specific thing, and one thing only, believe it or not. There's only one reason why God's considered a man and Earth is considered a woman. It has to do with the rain, the sacred fluid. In Hebrew, the word is shemen. We get the word semen from it, the sacred fluid. So again, everything's a metaphor, right? So think about it like this. When it rains, God is ejaculating onto Earth, and she is taking in his seed, and from her belly, or the land, food, vegetation, and all sorts of things grow. So again, remember, Taurus, as above, so below. You look at the sky, you see the bull, you put the plow on the bull, you plant, as above, so below, you plant the grape seeds, and then it's April showers bring May flowers, because that is literally Taurus. So it's going to rain and rain and rain, pour shemen down, and then what's going to happen is in Libra, after it rained for a very long time, you're going to pick the grapes off of the vine. And you're going to make the wine. That's how you turn God's water into wine. Why he had 12 disciples, I'm going to show you that real quick. I'm only going to go over a few real quick because I want to get to other things. Scorpio is Judas, the betrayer, with the kiss, just like Scorpio betrays with the kiss. Libra is James, who is known as the just one, just like the justice. Just, the scales of justice, the just one. Aquarius is John the Baptist, the man walking around baptizing everybody, just like Aquarius shows. Pisces, This is from my mentor, Santo Spinacci. Pisces is interesting because Simon Peter. So Ronald goes to Ron, Thomas goes to Tom, you know, Stephanie goes to Steph. You know, there's nicknames, right? But Simon becomes Peter. How the hell does that happen? Well, if you know Simon's job, he was a fisherman, so we know that that's Pisces. But how do we know Simon is Pisces? Because the ruling planet of Pisces is Jupiter or Jew Peter. It is a play on words. So that's 4. Gemini is Thomas Didymus. How do we know that? Well, because in Hebrew, the word ta'om or tom means twin. In Greek, the word Didymus means twin. So ta'om, Didymus, twin. The twins are Gemini. So that's just 5 examples there. Each one of these signs represents one of the zodiac signs. I mean, one of the disciples. There's 12 zodiacs, 12 disciples, 12 tribes of Israel, 12 brothers of Joseph. I mean, it just goes on and on and on. Now, remember I told you about the Northern Hemisphere earlier, guys. This science only works for people in the Northern Hemisphere, and there's a reason for that. The Egyptians, Jews, Christians, and Muslims are all based out of the Northern Hemisphere. For example, June 21st, the summer solstice, is actually the winter solstice in Australia and New Zealand, much of South Africa and South America. So what does that mean for the zodiac wheel? Does the Southern Hemisphere not get it? No, it's just like this. Ready? Libra is when you, right here, in the Northern Hemisphere, Libra is law, wine, and oil, remember? So when do you press the wine and the oil? Well, because the Southern Hemisphere is literally mirror reversed, all you got to do is go to the opposing sign. So you would do that during Aries. Virgo is the wheat, the lady with the wheat stalk. That's when you make the bread, the barley, the beer. So how do you do that? Well, you just go to its opposing sign, Pisces. That's when you do it. And so on and so forth. The science stays the same. Why was he betrayed with a kiss by Judas? Scorpio. We went over that. Why was he dead for 3 days? The sun walking sideways. Dead, not rising. We went over that. Why is his birthday on December 25th? We went over that. But it doesn't stop there. It's not just random passages in the Bible that can be decoded this way. We're going to go through the entire book of Revelation. I'm going to demystify Revelation, guys, so you're not scared of it, to show how deep this runs. Now, we did Revelation 4:7, which is the 4 living creatures, right? So I'm going to skip that because we already went over it. I don't need to go over it again. Revelation 5:5. Then one of the elders said to me, "Do not weep. See, the Lion of the tribe of Judah, the root of David, has triumphed. He is able to open the scrolls and its 7 seals." Well, why? Why does the Lion of Judah? Well, the Lion of Judah, Leo, is what Jesus or the Son rules over. The Lion of Judah. Why does the Lion open it up? Because the Son rules Leo, and that's Jesus. So that's why he's able to open the scroll and the 7 seals. I watched as the Lamb. Oh, I should probably use this instead. Hold on. I watched as the Lamb opened the first of the 7 seals. Then I heard one of the 4 living creatures, guys, that's the 4 fixed signs that we went over before, say in a voice like thunder, "Come." So the Lamb opens the first sign. Why? Because Aries opens the year. Aries is the beginning of the year. What's in Aries? April. What does open mean in Italian? Apri. It's April. Apri. It opens the year. And then the 4 living creatures. And then in Hebrew, the word for thunder actually translates to voices. So when Moses was on the Mount Sinai, and everyone heard thunder, they thought God was talking to him, actually giving him the 10 commandments. Revelation 6:2. I looked, and there before me was a white horse. Its rider held a bow. Guys, who's the rider that holds the bow? That's Sagittarius. Then I heard what sounded like a voice among the 4 living creatures, right? The 4 fixed signs, saying 2 pounds of wheat. That is Virgo for a day's wages, and 6 pounds of barley, the bread and the beer. That is Virgo for a day's wages. And do not damage the oil and the wine. Well, the oil and the wine were put together. And guess what? That's Libra. So guess what? This is 2 examples of Virgo and 2 examples of Libra. And guess what? Virgo and Libra are connecting signs on the zodiac. I watched as he opened the 6th seal. There was a great earthquake. The sun turned black like sackcloth made of goat hair. The whole moon turned blood red. Why did they put goat and moon right next to each other? Because the goat is Capricorn, which is down here. But its opposing sign is Cancer. Cancer is ruled by the moon. Leo is ruled by the sun. Cancer is ruled by the moon. It's the only two that those two bodies rule over. Revelation 7:4. Then I heard the number of those who were sealed, 144,000 from all the tribes of Israel. So what they're trying to tell you here is that only 144,000 get to go see God. That is what the Jehovah's believe in, that it's predetermined. But I'm going to show you how anyone with the 144,000 can see God. There are 7 chakras. The root has 4 petals, the sacral has 6, the solar plexus has 10. The heart has 12 and the throat has 16, which equals 48. The third eye chakra is represented by 96 and only has 2 petals because it's 2 times as powerful as the lower chakras. So 48 times 2 is 96. The crown chakra is 1,000 times more powerful than the lower 6 chakras. When you add the lower 6, you get 96 plus 48 equals 144, and then you times that by the 1,000 crown chakra, and you get your 144,000. What it's actually trying to tell you is that when you've activated all your chakras, that's when you get to go see God. Revelation 9:3. And out of the smoke, locusts came down on the earth and were given power like that of scorpions of the earth. Well, what is the power of the scorpion, guys? I told you earlier, it's to betray. That's what the scorpion does. So how do locusts betray? Well, in about 5 minutes, when we get to the book of Matthew, I'm going to show you how the locusts are a food source. So that's how they're good, right? Because they're feeding people. It's a good thing. But too many of them betray and become a plague. That's how they betray. The locusts look like horses prepared for battle. So that's Sagittarius. On their heads, they wore something like crowns of gold. The sun is golden. So that is the horse, the sun in Sagittarius. And their faces resembled human faces. Check this out, guys. Their hair was like women's hair. That's Virgo. And their teeth were like lion's teeth. That's Leo. They had tails with stingers like scorpions. Sagittarius, the sun in Sagittarius, and Scorpio, stingers like scorpions. Those are connecting signs. Virgo, the woman's hair, and the lion's teeth, Leo, those are connecting signs too. So you guys can see how Revelation's really not that scary, right? It's just the same kind of stuff. Revelation 12, this is the woman with the dragon. We did that already. Revelation 13:2. The beast I saw resembled a leopard, but had feet like those of a bear and a mouth like that of a lion. There's a constellation in Gemini called Camelopardalis. It's a combination of the word camelos, which means camel, pardalis. Pardalis means leopard. The camel leopard, which was the original name for the giraffe when they first saw it. Because they saw this big thing, this big, long, lanky thing like a camel that had spots like a leopard. So they called it the camel leopard. Well, the camel leopard is in Gemini. Now, Ursa Major, or the bear, is in Cancer. And the mouth like that of a lion is Leo. That is 3 signs in a row. The beast I saw resembled a leopard. That's Gemini. The bear, feet like those of a bear. That's Cancer. The mouth like that of a lion. That's Leo. 3 signs in a row in just that small passage. Then I saw a second beast coming out of the earth. It had 2 horns like, oh, you know what? I meant to get rid of that. Cargoes of cinnamon and spice, of incense. I didn't tell you this, guys, but myrrh and frankincense that the 3 wise men, or Orion's belt, the 3 stars in Orion's belt, bring to Jesus. Myrrh and frankincense are olive plants, and olive is Libra. And look no further, because the next word is wine, which is Libra, and olive oil, which is also Libra too. Fine flour and wheat, that's Virgo. Virgo and Leo and Libra are connecting signs. Cattle is Taurus. Sheep is Aries. Those are connecting signs. Horse is Sagittarius. I mean, they're just patterns everywhere that just teach you about the heavens. So I read this to you earlier. This might make a little more sense to you now. My point, once again, is not that those ancient people told literal stories and we are now smart enough to take them symbolically, but that they told them symbolically and we are now dumb enough to take them literally. So now I'm going to go into a deep dive of the book of Matthew. The book of Matthew, Matthew 3:2. Repent of your sins and turn to God, for the kingdom of heaven is near. Each gospel begins at one of the four major points of the zodiac, the cardinal signs. So summer, fall, winter, and spring. Incidentally, by the way, guys, when you connect it, it makes the cross of God's Son that he carries to his death right here. The kingdom of heaven is Leo, whose ruling planet is the sun, or Jesus. This is the only sign that the sun rules over. The closest of these 4 points to Leo is June 21st in Cancer, because this already passed. These two are far away. So this is the only point right here. So this gospel starts June 21st. This is the cusp handover date between Cancer and Leo. It is the beginning of the kingdom. Matthew 3:4. John's clothes were woven from coarse camel hair, and he wore a leather belt around his waist. For food, he ate locusts. So there's food right there, locusts, and wild honey. If we take the most famous drawing of a man, Leonardo da Vinci's Vitruvian Man, and superimpose it onto the zodiac, we can make sense of this. Which, by the way, guys, honestly, you could use a stick figure. I just did it for aesthetic purposes. So check this out. Cancer. The head is in Cancer. The mouth is in Cancer. So he's going to eat something, right? Well, in Cancer, you have the beehive cluster, the close group of stars. So that's why he's eating the honey. Leviticus 11, what's clean and unclean to eat. All flying insects that walk on all fours are to be regarded as unclean by you. There are, however, some flying insects that walk on all fours that you may eat. Those that have jointed legs for hopping on the ground, of those you may eat, kind of locust, so there it is, katydid, cricket, or grasshopper. So just know when they're trying to get you, a pound of grasshoppers is 3 times as nutritious as a pound of beef. When they're trying to get you to eat grasshoppers, that's biblical. They're getting it from the Bible. So we were in Leo. We started in Leo. Then we were in Cancer with the beehive cluster, right? The mouth, he was eating the beehive cluster. He was eating the honey. Now a little lower on the zodiac is Gemini. So that's 3 signs in a row, by the way, guys, to start. And Gemini, if Cancer is the head, Gemini is a little lower on the body. So we're looking at like the clothing area right here. And what does he do? He's wearing the clothes made out of camel hair. Well, guess what? In Gemini, you have the constellation Camelopardalis, which is in Gemini. So we were in Leo, and then we were in Cancer, the mouth eating the honey from the beehive cluster. Then we were in Gemini, right? Camelopardalis, because he's wearing the clothes of camel hair. And then Taurus is a little lower on the body too. That would be like the midsection right here, right? Because it's lower on the zodiac wheel. That's where you'd wear the belt, right? Well, Taurus represents the bull and the female is the cow, which is where you get the leather from. Regarding the belt, Orion's belt is right here between Taurus and Gemini. So that's where you get the leather from the cow and the belt from Orion's belt. Now, next would be the baptism. So we were here. We started at the beginning of Leo. Now, how are we going to go from the beginning of Leo, which, by the way, 1, 2, 3, 4 signs in a row, by the way. Now, how are we going to get from the beginning of Leo to a water sign? Again, the opposing sign. You just follow the zodiac down, and it's touching Aquarius, the man with the water pitcher, right? So this is the baptism. Here we see a leap of how it makes from one cusp to another. The man with the water pitcher in Aquarius is personified as John the Baptist with the water. It's important to note, too, that John the Baptist and Jesus are always 6 months apart. When you think about the fact that Jesus is born on December 25th, the sun, and rises a degree a day, then that has to mean that John the Baptist is born on June 24th and decrease a degree every single day, right? Because as Jesus goes up, John must go down, which is why in John 3:30, John says he must increase, but I must decrease. And it's also why St. John's Day, if you open up a Catholic calendar, is always June 24th, because that's his birthday. So the next story is the temptation of Jesus. So we're just going to go from here after the baptism back here. The day right here is July 24th. So he's tempted by Satan for 40 days in the desert, right? This is simple. If this is July 24th, just count 40 days. That's all you have to do. You're going to get to September 2nd. This is right in the middle of Virgo, the lady with the wheat stalk. What is the very next passage, guys? Matthew 4:3. If you are the Son of God, tell these stones to become loaves of bread. Here we see mentions of bread, which tells you the sun is in Virgo. So we were in Leo, and then we were in Virgo just now, stones of loaves of bread. And now we're in Libra, which is 3 signs in a row. So we did 4 signs this way and 3 signs here. So this gospel opens up with 7 signs in a row. Now, Matthew 5:17 and 22, because we're in Libra now, right? I did not come to abolish the law, and if you are even angry with someone, you are subject to judgment. Both law and judgment are Libra. Matthew 7:15 and 16. Beware of false prophets who come disguised as harmless sheep. The sheep is Aries. And can you pick grapes from the thorn bushes? Well, the grapes are Libra. Those are opposing signs. Once again, moving along, Matthew 13. Later that same day, Jesus left the house and sat beside the lake, right? So if you look right here, he left the house and he walked to the lake. I told you Aquarius and Pisces are both water, right? But look at what they used. They said he's beside the lake. If they said he went in the lake for a swim, you could say he was in Aquarius or in Pisces. But if he's beside the lake, right here, based on the words, you're at the cusp. And if you follow this cusp across, it's Leo Virgo. Virgo, the wheat stalk, the grains. Jesus gives the following parables: the wheat and the weeds, the mustard seed, and the yeast. And if I come back here, Aquarius, Pisces, border touching Pisces, so I could talk about the fish, he then gives the fishing net parable. I hope you guys are starting to see how this works. It's really not that complicated. Gemini is the sign of 2 men, technically twins. However, there's just a short mention of brothers in the next passage. He's just the carpenter's son, and we know Mary, his mother, and his brothers James, Joseph, Simon, and Judas. So we're in Gemini, right? This ends right here. Why? Because if you follow it to its opposing sign, it takes you to December 21st. That's the day of death, right? So what is the very next story? Again, you know his brothers, so that's Gemini, because we were talking about brothers. You go to the opposing sign from the cusp, you're touching Sagittarius and Capricorn. That's the day of death, December 21st, the first day of winter. That's the day of death. What's the very next story? It's the death of John the Baptist. As I've mentioned previously, death comes at the end of Sagittarius. So I added this because I thought it would be helpful. I'm going to show you how scripture is written now. Let's take a sentence which sounds like it could be in the Bible but isn't. If I say to you, the rulers were divided between war and love, it split the land in half. You could read that as a literal translation. Or the ruling planet of Aries is Mars, who's the god of war. That's right here. The ruling planet of Libra, the opposing sign, is Venus, who's the goddess of love. There's your war and love. If you connect it, like I did, I just split the land in half. That's how this works. Again, each one of these zodiac signs contains constellations, names of animals, or key words that they basically use to put a story together, or every story together. Matthew 14 and 70 and 32, but we only have 5 loaves of bread. That's Virgo, the lady with the wheat stalk, and 2 fish. Guess what? 2 fish is Pisces. Guess what? Those are opposing signs. This is the cross of God's sun. We were just in Virgo, and now next is Libra, which is law, wine, and oil, remember? Well, what stories do we get now? We get the story of the temple tax, the unforgiving debtor, divorce and marriage. That's all law. And the parable of the vineyard worker. That's wine. Law, wine, and oil, remember? Now, Virgo and Libra are 2 connecting signs. Next is Scorpio, the betrayer. This is where Judas betrays Jesus with the kiss. Now it's 3 signs in a row, and then you have the death of Jesus. So it ends with 4 signs in a row. That's the book of Matthew, guys. Astrology is a language. If you understand this language, the sky speaks to you, Dane Rudyard. And I understand this language, and I just go around trying to explain this to as many people that will listen to it. Are you starting to see the great implication of this so far? This means that at the very, very least, the Bible is not meant to be taken literally. So let me read you the statement that I read you at the beginning, okay? What is the point of this? We take for granted we have calendars, clocks, watches, weathermen. The ancients didn't have any of that. They had sundials. In the Bible, they worked on dream interpretations for harvest. They had to know things. They needed to know Taurus is when you put plow on the bull and plant as above, so below. The Bible is an encoded farmer's almanac, and was the knowledge of staying alive the most important thing. They would look at the stars and see all this movement and make stories up about them and pass them down to their children, then them to their children. Eventually, they learned how to write and wrote them down, and they evolved from Sumerian to Babylonian to Egyptian to Judaism, then to the Christians, then to the Quran. I'm going to show you all of that, guys. We'll get there. Now, my point once again is not that those ancient people told literal stories, and we are now smart enough to take them symbolically, but that they told them symbolically, and we are now dumb enough to take them literally. So I just want to take a break from scripture real quick and show you guys some stuff. The U.S., this has to be said, the U.S. was not founded as a Christian nation, and it's so important that we get this out there. Christianity is the most perverted system that ever shone on man. That's Thomas Jefferson. I found Christian dogma unintelligible. That's Benjamin Franklin. This would be the best of all possible worlds if there were no religion in it. John Adams. The Constitution is the guide which I will never abandon. George Washington. But it continues. And the day will come when the mystical generation of Jesus, by the Supreme Being as his father, in the womb of a virgin, will be classed with the fable of the generation of Minerva in the brain of Jupiter. Thomas Jefferson in a letter to John Adams. What influence, in fact, have Christian ecclesiastical establishments had on civil society? In many instances, they have been upholding the thrones of political tyranny. In no instance have they been sent as the guardians of the liberties of people. That's James Madison. The purpose of separation of church and state is to keep forever from these shores the ceaseless strife that has soaked the soil of Europe in blood for centuries. James Madison. And as we're coming up on the 250th year of our country's founding, let me read you this quote from Thomas Paine, which is my favorite. And this is 250 years ago they knew this. Now, why doesn't anybody know this anymore? The Christian religion is a parody on the worship of the sun, in which they put a man called Christ in the place of the sun and pay him the adoration originally paid to the sun. Now, let me show you how they start to use this in society. Why do they always crash the stock market in Libra? The Panic of 1907, October 1907, Teddy Roosevelt. He was a Republican. Wall Street crash of 1929, October 24th, 1929. That's a handover date to Scorpio. Herbert Hoover, Republican. Black Monday, October 19th, 1987. Ronald Reagan, Republican. Friday the 14th mini crash, October 13th, 1989. George H.W. Bush, Republican. Stock market downturn of 2002, October 9th, 2002. George W. Bush, Republican. 10% in most of the world indices dropped, crashed. It's a handover date to Scorpio, October 24th, 2008. George W. Bush, Republican. And now, which I didn't add here, October 10th, 2025. Donald Trump, Republican. The crypto crash. Why did they crash it in Libra? Well, Libra's the judge, guys. They're judging us. We're being judged. That's why they crash it there. There's no other explanation. So now that I've obviously shown you guys some out in the open astrology, well, not out in the open, but now that I've shown you the astrology and a lot of this stuff, Roman Catholic Catechism 2116, all forms of divination are to be rejected. Recourse to Satan or demons, conjuring up the dead, or other practices falsely supposed to unveil the future. Consulting horoscopes, astrology, palm reading, interpretations of lots, the phenomena of clairvoyance, and recourse to mediums all conceal a desire for power over time, history, and in the last analysis, other human beings, as well as a wish to conciliate hidden powers. They contradict the honor, respect, and loving fear that we owe to God alone. Guys, if I just showed you so much hidden astrology that's being hidden, why would the Roman Catholic Church, and pretty much, Christianity in general, even Judaism, tell you astrology is evil or ban it or tell you it's of the devil, right? They beat it into you. Look at this, guys. I don't know if you guys remember this movie Face Off, right? This is John Travolta and Nicolas Cage. It's like a face swap movie. It's from the 90s, so some of the older people might remember this movie because it was kind of big. Now, Nicolas Cage and his brother in the movie, their names were Castor and Pollux Troy, which I told you to remember earlier, which are the names of Gemini. John Travolta's name in the movie was Sean Archer. The archer is Sagittarius with the bow and the arrow. He's the archer. Those are opposing signs. So someone in movies and history knows this. They just don't share it with you. There are a ton of characters in Harry Potter that are named after stars or constellations. You have Draco Malfoy, Pollux Black, Sirius Black, Andromeda Black, Regulus Black, Arcturus Black, Cassiopeia Black, Orion, and Cygnus Black. In the movie Batman Begins, there's a star called Algol. It's a demon star. You could talk to an astrologer about that. It's fixed in Taurus, by the way, but it has a lot of evil attached to it. Well, it's called Algol, which is why his name was Ra's al Ghul in the movie. Again, from the 90s. 1990s song video for the Cranberry Zombie. Here's Dolores O'Riordan. She's painted gold, and that represents the rays of the sun. But is that it? Well, after she's singing like that, what is the very next scene? Well, if you look at here, you have the golden sun, right? On the cross. So the sun on the cross. Sagittarius is the one that kills her. So they have little dudes with the bow and the arrow waiting to kill the sun on the cross. It's the story of Christ. But it's not just the Bible. If you don't know by now the Bible is not original, you still might have doubts. Here are 6,000 years of ancient holy texts, going from 5 Sumerian tablets, the Babylonian Enuma Elish, the Code of Hammurabi, which is where the Jews get their punishment and code of ethics from, to the Egyptian Book of the Dead, to the Gnostic texts, all of them, to the Quran, to the Book of Mormon. I'm actually still working on the Apocrypha, the Ethiopian Bible, and the Colburn Bible, but believe me, they're all the same. So let's start with Sumerian tablets. And guys, before I start, we're going to do Epic of Gilgamesh. This shit is 6,000 years old. 6,000, okay? These are thousands and thousands of years before the Bible was even created. Epic of Gilgamesh. May the bear mourn you, the hyena, the panther, the leopard, deer, jackal, lion, wild bull, gazelle. May the rivers Ulaya and Euphrates mourn you, whose sacred waters we offered to the gods. May the young men of the great walled Uruk mourn you, who cheered when we slaughtered the bull of heaven. Guys, what is the bull of heaven? Where the bull in heaven? That's Taurus, right? The bull in heaven. May the farmer mourn you, who praised you to the skies in his harvest song. May the shepherd mourn you, who brought you milk. May the brewer mourn you, who made you fine beer. May Ishtar's priestess mourn you, who massaged you with sweet-smelling oil. May the wedding guests mourn you like their own brother. The bear is Ursa Major, the great bear, which is Gemini and Cancer. The leopard is Camelopardalis, which is in Gemini. Mriga, or the deer, is located in Orion, between Taurus and Gemini. The lion is Leo, the wild bull is Taurus. The rivers are Pisces, the water sign that signifies the water. The bull of heaven is Taurus. The shepherd is Aries, as previously mentioned. The milk comes from the Milky Way galaxy, whose center is in Sagittarius. The brewer and the fine beer is from barley, which is harvested in Virgo. Ishtar's priestess is Virgo the woman. The sweet-smelling oil is the oil from Libra. The mourning like their own brother is Gemini the brothers. There's 10 signs in this 6,000-year-old passage from the Epic of Gilgamesh. The only two is Scorpio and Capricorn. Those are the only two missing. So they didn't mention the goat, and they didn't mention the eagle, the snake, the scorpion, but there's 10 signs in this one passage. Astrotheology and Enki and the World Order. And what I've done, guys, is I've given you one example from each one of these texts, because if I do everything, it's going to take me 25 years. So I'm just giving you one example from each text. But if you go to my website, debunkmywork.com, you can break down any of these, because I have full videos up for everything. Father Enki engendered by a bull, begotten by a wild bull. Great dragon who stands in Eridug. A grove of vines extending over the lands, where stags are born, where wild goats are born, in meadows. You close up the day and make the months enter their houses. The bull is Taurus. The dragon and its tail goes from Aries to Sagittarius. The stag is the deer, which is Mriga, which is in Orion, which sits between Taurus and Gemini. And the goats are Capricorn. 7 signs right here in a row. In a row. Enki and Nirasaja. In Dilmun, the raven was not yet cawing, the partridge not cackling, the lion did not slay, the wolf was not carrying off lambs, the dog had not been taught to make kids curl up. The raven is the constellation Corvus, which means raven and borders Virgo. The lion is Leo. These two are connecting signs. The wolf is the constellation Lupus, which borders Libra. 3 signs in a row. Lamb is Aries, which is the wolf's opposing sign. The dog is Canis Major, which is 11 stars in Cancer. Cancer, Leo, Virgo, Libra, 4 signs in a row. Inanna's descent to the netherworld. She took the 7 divine powers. She had placed twin egg-shaped beads on her breast. After 3 days and 3 nights had passed, and the other the life-giving water. They will offer you a river full of water. They will offer you a field with its grain. They eat no fish. The 7 of them poured the milk. They would not let the shepherd play the pipe. He turned his feet to snake's feet, in the beer house and the tavern. The 7 divine powers are the 7 sisters of the Pleiades. That's in Taurus. The twin is Gemini. These are connecting signs. Now remember I told you about the 2 waters, right? The life-giving water is Aquarius, and the river full of water is Pisces. The life-giving water, the baptism water, right? To give life. And the river full of water is Pisces with the fish in it. So depending on how they use the words, they're talking about 2 different types of water here. They're connecting signs. The field and its grains are Virgo. Pisces and Virgo are opposing signs. The fish is Pisces as well. The milk comes from the Milky Way galaxy, whose centers in Sagittarius. Sagittarius and Gemini are opposing signs. The shepherd is Aries. So far, we have Aquarius, Pisces, Aries, Taurus, and Gemini. 5 signs in a row. The snake is Ophiuchus, which sits in the sidereal between Scorpio and Sagittarius. The beer house is Virgo. So there's 7 signs in this tablet, 5 in a row. And did I mention, guys, that these are 6,000 years old? Enki's journey to Nibiru. Its eaves roar like a bull. Your lock has no rival. Your bolt is a fearsome lion. Your roof beams are the bull of heaven. Your vault is a bull raising its horns. Your door is a lion who seizes a man. Your staircase is a lion coming down on a man. Rising sea without a rival. Mighty awe-inspiring river which terrifies the land. A lion in the midst of the Abzu. The Suhar carp play among the honey herbs. Enki had oxen slaughtered and had sheep offered there lavishly. Enki reached for the beer and had emmer wheat beer pressed out. The bull is Taurus, the bull of heaven. The lion is Leo, the man is Aquarius. Aquarius and Leo are opposing signs. The carp is Pisces, and the honey is the beehive cluster in Cancer. Aquarius and Pisces are connecting signs. The sheep is Aries. Aquarius, Pisces, Aries, and Taurus are 4 signs in a row. The beer, wheat beer, is Virgo. Virgo and Pisces are opposing signs. Leo and Virgo are connecting signs. Cancer and Leo are connecting signs. Cancer, Leo, and Virgo are 3 signs in a row. I mean, do you think this was done on purpose? The other thing too is here. If I show you this real quick, the missing signs are Gemini, Sagittarius, and Capricorn. So they didn't mention the twins. They didn't mention the horse or the man with the bow and the arrow on the horse or any variation of that. They didn't mention Capricorn the goat. But if you look at this, these are the 3 missing signs. Gemini and Sagittarius are opposing signs. Sagittarius and Capricorn are connecting signs. So not only do you have a ton of connecting signs, a ton of connections that I just read to you, but even the missing ones have connections. I mean, you have to do this intentionally. This doesn't just happen by accident. There are countless other Sumerian texts. I only gave you 5 examples to show the pattern. So let's do the Babylonian Enuma Elish. Then Tiamat enlisted a horned snake, a Meshusu dragon, a mad dog, and a scorpion man, half fish, half man, half bull. The horned snake is Ophiuchus. A dragon is Draco. The mad dog is the dog star Sirius, which is located in Cancer. The scorpion man is Scorpion Aquarius mix. The half man, half fish is Aquarius Pisces border, which blends the fish and the man sign. The half man, half bull, which is half Aquarius, half Taurus. The Code of Hammurabi. If a man had stolen ox or sheep or ass or pig or ship, whether from the temple or the palace, he shall pay 30-fold. The man sign is Aquarius, the ox is Taurus, the sheep is Aries. The ass is a Celis borealis or donkey located in Cancer, and the pig is a constellation called Porcus. The ship is a constellation called Argo that goes from Cancer to Scorpio. So there's 7 signs total. The Egyptian Book of the Dead. O mighty of knives, lady of 2 lands, the one who smashes the enemies of the weary-hearted one, the one who does what is wise, the one free of wrong. The name of its gatekeeper is long-horned bull. What is to be said when arriving at the fifth portal? Words spoken by the Osiris Ani, the vindicated, O fiery one, mistress of heat, the joyful one, the one whom the entities of the bald-headed do not descend, the one who asks that something be given to her without the swift of glance entering into her. The name of its gatekeeper is one who spears the disaffected. So the lady is Virgo, the woman. The longhorned bull is Taurus, the bull. I'll give you another example. I guess I gave you two examples for this tab, for the Egyptian Book of the Dead. Chapter for becoming Ta, eating bread, drinking beer, purifying the hinder parts, and being alive in Heliopolis. What will you live on, say the gods and spirits to me? I will live and have power through bread. Where will you eat it, say the gods and spirits to me? I will have power and eat it under the branches of the tree of Hathor, my mistress, who made offering of bread, beer, and corn. Remember earlier how I told you that corn was harvested during Virgo? The bread is Virgo, the beer is Virgo, the bread is wheat, and the beer is barley. Those who are in Heliopolis bound their heads to me, for I am the Lord, I am their bull. The bread, beer, and corn is Virgo. The bull is Taurus. Now, Heliopolis is the city of light in Egypt. That's where you went to get enlightened. That's the city you went to get enlightened. And it was actually called On, O-N, which is why now, thousands of years later, when you go into a room, if you want to become enlightened or have light, you have to turn them on, because that's where it comes from. The Book of Enoch, biblical Gnostic text. They want to know why the Book of Enoch is left out of the Bible, because of passages like this that openly talk about it. Chapter 8.2. Semjaza taught enchantments, Armoros the resolving of enchantments, Barakiel taught astrology, Kokabel the constellations, Ezekiel the knowledge of the clouds, Sariel the course of the moon. I mean, this is open astrology, guys. They can't have that. And in those days, the mountains shall leap like lambs, that's Aries, and the hills shall also skip like lambs, that's Aries, satisfied with milk, the Milky Way galaxy, whose centers in Sagittarius. The Gospel of Q. So now we started with the Sumerians, then we went to the Babylonians, then we went to the Egyptians. Now we're in the Gnostic texts. The Gospel of Q. Give us our daily bread today. Which of you would give your child a stone if they ask for bread? Or would you give them a snake if they ask for fish? The bread is Virgo, the snake is Ophiuchus, and the fish is Pisces. Pisces and Virgo are opposing signs. Oh, I have another one too. Everyone who divorces his wife and remarries is unfaithful to her, and whoever marries someone who's divorced is unfaithful too. So divorce, that's part of Libra, right? The law. Then which of you would have, if you had 100 sheep and lost one of them, wouldn't leave the 99 in the hills and go after the one they lost? The sheep is Aries. Aries and Libra are opposing signs, and they put these scriptures right next to each other. The Secret Gospel of John. Sophia saw what her desire produced, to change into the form of a dragon with a lion's head. So the lion is Leo. The dragon goes from Aries to Sagittarius. Aquarius is part of it, and Aquarius and Leo are opposing signs, so it just explains to you that pattern. The Gospel of Thomas. Happy is the lion that a man will eat. The lion will become a man. Cursed is the man whom the lion eats, for that lion will become a man. They're talking about ingesting an animal and their components will become part of you, or you are part of them. However, in astrology, the lion is the sign Leo, the sign of the man is Aquarius. They are opposing signs of the zodiac. You get the same kind of story with Daniel the man and the lion's den Leo. Man is like a skilled angler who casts his net up and draws it full of fish. They're talking about the man Aquarius and the sign fish Pisces. So let me show you how this works, guys. This is Gemini, the two men, and this is Sagittarius, the two men on the horse. So if I want to do jousting, these opposing signs is where it comes from. Leo is the lion, Aquarius is the man. These are opposing signs. So if I want to do lion taming, that's where this comes from. Virgo is the woman, and Pisces is the fish, which is opposing signs, which is how you get mermaids. Aquarius to Pisces is how you get mermen. Taurus, the bull, and the man over here is how you get bullfighting or bull riding. I mean, I could just continue and continue and continue and continue. I just wanted to show you guys a few examples of that. It's as above, so below, guys. The Gospel of Mary Magdalene. Mary questioned her master, "At the end of an eon, will all matter be destroyed?" Each zodiac sign is considered a house. So the house of Aquarius, the house of Pisces, each sign is also called an eon. The Gospel of Philip. When he came to his disciples in splendid glory on the Mount of Olives, he wasn't small. He became great and made his disciples great so you could see him in greatness. On that day, he said in gratitude, "You who have united perfect light with Holy Spirit, unite us with the angels as well. Don't scorn the Lamb. Without him, it is impossible to know the King. No one may visit the King without robes of light." So the olives are Libra, the Lamb is Aries. Guess what? Those are opposing signs. Also, in the same gospel, the Good Samaritan gave wine and oil. Again, wine and oil, always put together, right? Well, that's Libra. The Gospel of Judas. A nearby lake of still waters quenched our thirst. The place reminded us of David's famed shepherd psalm. Our souls are restored. The lake of still waters is Pisces, the water. The shepherd is in Aries. Those are connecting signs. The Gospel of Jemanuel, discovered by Billy Meyer.
If I may interrupt real quick, these books, basically the Apocrypha, the lost books of the Bible, you're kind of going into that at this point. And what I'm wondering is, why were they omitted from the Bible?
That's a good question. I know why the Book of Enoch was omitted. I explained it earlier, I think. That's a good question. Why were the rest omitted, right? They did it at the Council of Nicaea. So there were two different councils that happened. You had the Synod at Jamnia, which was in 100 AD. In the Synod of Jamnia in 100 AD, the reason they all got together was because two reasons. Number one, well, two very important reasons. 100 AD, the Synod of Jamnia, and you can also find what I'm about to tell you in the Encyclopedia Britannica in case anybody wants to actually read and see what's hidden in plain sight. They got together because the Bible wasn't canonized at that time. So at 100 AD, 100 AD, they were still reading the Bible. They didn't have the books in the order they had them now. For example, the book of Genesis, people assume is the oldest, but it's not. The book of Job is. The book of Job is so much older than the rest of the Bible, yet it's put at the very near the beginning, but it's in the Bible where it is. It's not the first one. It's not in chronological order. So what they did was they put it together. Now, the other thing that happened was that this was 100 AD, right? So in 70 AD, there was something that came out, the Gospel of Mark, in 70 AD, right around the time that the Jews lost the Second Temple, that it was destroyed. The Gospel of Mark came out, and because the Gospel of Mark is the oldest gospel out of all four of them, and they actually deliberated there whether or not to actually put the Gospel of Mark in the Old Testament, which would have changed everything, right? But they decided against it. They wanted to keep it for the New Testament. Then you had the Council of Nicaea in 325 AD. We had Constantine, and it's not really known whether he actually unified under Christianity or if he was baptized on his deathbed, and then they kind of just spread it from there. That's still up in the air. But they had the Council of Nicaea where they got a bunch of people together and they tried to keep certain books out of there. The Ethiopian Bible has 88 books, or 86 books, I forget, or 84, I think. It's 84 books. Actually, I can't. It's either 84, 86, or 88. I can't remember right now. I apologize, but the Ethiopian Bible has.
Wasn't the Council of Nicaea a get together basically of all the groups that were trying to be the group to welcome in the Messiah, and then they got together. This is my understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong. They got together and they decided on a ultimate person that ended up being the deity that we now call Jesus Christ, and they gave him additional abilities and stuff like that, and they also included that he would forgive. They added forgiveness to the previous deity Mithra, but they added that attribute to Jesus because Constantine murdered his way to power, and that's his way of cleansing his own soul. Your thoughts?
I haven't heard that before, but that's very interesting. I know that Constantine's nephew, Julian the Apostate, whose books still exist, he was his nephew, And after Constantine died, Julian tried to bring everyone back to the original Christians were called Heliognostics, and Helios means the sun, Gnostics means no, sun knowers. They were sun worshippers. That was the original Christians. They were called Heliognostics. And Julian the Apostate, Constantine's nephew, tried to bring him back, and he got an arrow in his back during war from his own side. They killed him for trying to do that. And I think everything is just so shady around Constantine and that I don't really know. I really need to look into that a little bit further, to be honest.
I'll let you carry on. I'm going to pop off the screen and I'm going to put your presentation back on, but thank you for answering those questions.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so I just wanted to show you guys this. I'll show you an astrotheology thing from the Gospel of Emmanuel by Billy Meyer, the UFO guy. This Earth can nourish and support 500 million people of all the human races. But if these laws are not followed in 2,000 years, so 500 million 2,000 years ago, so 2,000 years would be now. 10 times 500 million, that's 5 billion people will exist. So this was discovered in 1963. So 5 billion people will exist now. This gospel supposedly predicted that. But where have we heard the 500 million before? Something was created in 1980. This was discovered in 1963. The Georgia Guidestones maintain humanity under 500 million people. To me, I think that's where it got it from, to be honest with you. But then, truly I say to you, from now on I will no longer drink of the fruit of the vineyard. That's Libra. Nor eat of the bread. That's Virgo. Those are connecting signs. Until I drink and eat again with you after my affliction. The Quran. Okay, you're gonna like this. Those who do not know say, why has not the Lord turned the word to us, and why will he not show us a sign from heaven? Similar words are spoken by those who came before them, their hearts alike. We interpret the signs for those who are committed to faith. And how beautifully all people see the love of earthly passions. Here are women and sons. There are mountains of silver and gold and marked horses and herds of cattle and a plowed field. The women are Virgo, the sign of the woman. The sons are the boys in Gemini. Horse is Sagittarius and cattle is Taurus. The plowed field is Taurus as well, too. Taurus and Gemini are connecting signs, and Gemini and Sagittarius are opposing signs. Verily, in the creation of earth and sky, and in the change of night to day, earth and sky, here are the hidden signs for those who have intelligence. And among them are those who only pretendingly listen to you. We put a cover on their hearts so they would not understand it, and we covered their ears with deafness. And even if they see all the signs, they will not believe them. He is the one who brings down water to you from the sky. Remember, God, right? Shemin, sacred fluid. And with it we give plants of all kinds to grow, and with it we grow shoots of cereals. From them we grew grains, sitting in an ear of dents side by side. From the date palm, its ovaries, bunches of fruit hanging low, gardens of vines, olives, pomegranates, which in many ways are so similar yet different from each other. When fruits appear in them, rejoice in how they are poured and ripened. Truly in this are hidden signs for those who believed in God. Well, the grains are planted in Taurus, and April showers bring May flowers watered from the sky. The grains grow, reap in Virgo. Gardens of vines and olives. Grapes and olives are pressed in Libra. These are the signs. I mean, this is the Quran, guys. This is what people are killing people over. And whoever wants to own a beautiful garden of date palms and vines, which is washed by abundant streams, where for his pleasure all kind of fruit, while old age befalls him, and the children are weak, so that a fiery whirlwind falls on the garden and swallows it to ashes. So the Lord explains his signs to you so that you can understand. Vines are vineyards in Libra. The streams are the streams of water in Pisces and Aquarius. The other thing, too, guys, is when they talk about the 72 virgins, right, that all the martyrs die for, there's a star that borders Virgo called 70 Virginis. That's its name, 70 Virginis. So that's the 70. Then Virgo, that's her 71st. And then the virgin you marry on earth is your 72nd. These are your 72 virgins. It's all astrology like everything else is. And we come to the Book of Mormon. Nevertheless, I went forth, and as I came near unto the house of Laban, I beheld a man, and he had fallen to the earth before me, for he was drunken with wine. Yeah, and I also thought they could not keep the commandment of the Lord according to the law of Moses, save they should have the law. Well, guess what? Both wine and law is Libra. After the house of Israel should be scattered, they should be gathered together again, or in fine, after the Gentiles have received the fullness of the gospel. The natural branches of the olive tree, or the remnants of the house of Israel, should be grafted or come to the knowledge of the true Messiah, their Lord, their Redeemer. Therefore remember, O man, for all thy doing thou shalt be brought into judgment. Well, the olives take place in Libra, and the judgment takes place in Libra. And I looked and beheld the Lamb of God, that he was taken by the people. Yeah, and the Son of the everlasting God was judge of the world, and I saw him bear record. The Lamb of God is Aries. The Son of God, or the Son of Man, is Aquarius. Judging takes place in Libra. Libra and Aries are opposing signs. My point, once again, is not that those ancient people told literal stories and we are now smart enough to take them symbolically, but that they told them symbolically and we are now dumb enough to take them literally. The German philosopher Arthur Schopenhauer once said that truth passes through 3 stages. First, it is ridiculed. Second, it is violently opposed. Third, it is accepted as being self-evident. So do you understand the great implication here, now that I just went over 6,000 years worth of ancient holy texts? What is more likely? That all the Western ancient holy texts that we take for granted are living, breathing books that Revelation keeps coming true? Or is it more likely that the ancient elites have encoded all our texts this way and are tailoring events that people can interpret as coming true? At its simplest, the sun is good, the Christ, the plasma. The night is bad, set, evil, hence the sunset. Throughout the year, the sun goes through 12 entities. Each one of them have a story. The stories about them make up the encoded Farmer's Almanac that the Bible in each story of the Bible and different way of telling the same story. Everyone used to be an English major in the ancient times. The greatest story ever told is the only story ever told. It's just told in different ways over the ages. The problems with the world can be boiled down to people taking these stories literally. The powers that be have no intention on correcting you. Infighting keeps your eye off this fact. Now that I've done that, let me show this to you again. I just explained a sliver of the astrological part. So now if you're open to that this book was not meant to be taken literally, there's a metaphysical explanation, there's an anatomical explanation, there's an alchemical explanation, there's a spiritual esoteric mythology. And for those of you who want to, I continued my work. I have a book series called Into the Rabbit Hole. I'm the Into the Rabbit Hole author. I don't know if you guys have ever heard that series before, but that's me. These are my 8 books that I have out so far. They're a series, so this is 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on and so forth. Book 1 talks about MK Ultra. Book 2, The Secrets of the Pyramids. Book 3, The Knights Templar versus the Rosicrucians. Book 4, The Jab, which I wrote in 2017 and predicted what happened. Book 5, Where the Library of Alexandria is Now. Book 6 exposes the Bohemian Grove and the Pindar. Book 7, Transmuting the Stone at the Kaaba into Gold and Destroying the World's Market. Book 8, Tesla's Earthquake Machine and Greenland. Topics that I discuss in the book series: gematria, etymology, numerology, astronomy, astrology, astrotheology, OBEs, out-of-body experiences, the Akashic records, symbology, remote viewing, religious secrets, capstones of the pyramids, DNA encoding, mystery school channelers, near-death experiences, DMT monitoring, lucid dreaming, acoustic levitation, physics and quantum physics, psychotherapy, psychology, spiritual guides, Tesla tech, shared dreaming, and crystal technology, conspiracies that not many people know about, corruption, and secret societies. And this is my website, debunkmywork.com. This is a QR code. If you guys want to scan it, I believe it goes right to my website. My YouTube is Micah Dank Truth Bombs. And everybody that watched this, if you're interested, please follow me here. Or follow me on Facebook. I'm Micah Dank. On Twitter, I'm Real Mr. Dank, and on Instagram, I'm Micah Dank. So that's my presentation. That's the first of two. And what do you think?
Outstanding. And people in the chat were commenting as well, and totally enjoying it. Fantastic. And there's nothing, honestly, that you've said that I would disagree with. I'm totally there. Let me ask you this, though. Do you believe in a higher power, and what higher power do you believe in?
I believe in a higher power. I absolutely believe in God. I have like a 15-minute presentation on what I believe God is. If you let me run to the bathroom real quick and you want me to do that with you before I leave.
Actually, we could probably do a follow-up show on all this stuff, which would be a great idea.
Because I have another presentation too, because now I can go into biblical text now that you guys start to see some of it, and I can explain some of the other sciences too.
Quick question, another quick one though. Do you think Revelations is a template that those in power are trying to come to fruition through man-made events such as
Absolutely.
the weather?
100%. Like I said, what's more likely? That all these books are living, breathing books, or that the elites have encoded them all the same way with astrology, hidden the true nature, and they're using it against us?
I posted a quote earlier in the chat because I wanted to make sure that we would get to it. Can you see the screen right now?
No. I mean, hold on. Let me see chat here. Hold on. I see chat here. Hold on. Please, everyone follow me. Oh, I see that you have... Wait, hold on. Fuck.
It's okay.
Here we go. Hold on. Let me go through these comments real quick. We'll be starting soon. No problem.
Early in the comments, I made a post about, and I can't read the lettering on that, but what it means is in the beginning, Elohim.
Oh, hold on. I can read Hebrew. Hold on. It says, Bereshit bara Elohim et hashemayim ve'et haaretz. Well, it's an interesting quote, too, because et, the 1, 2, 3, the fourth word, et, A is the first letter, the alpha, and Toph is the last letter in the Hebrew alphabet. That's the omega. So it's the alpha and the omega, because et doesn't actually translate to anything.
So what I was curious, though, often in the translations, though, they say in the beginning, they don't say God, they say Elohim, which is the plurality of...
Well, El is the god Saturn.
Exactly.
El is the god Saturn. Ohim, in Hebrew, is like putting an S at the end of a word.
Yes.
So it's just it's just a plural. So it's the planets. That's what they're talking about.
So is it possible that the Elohim in the Bible are the demigods, not necessarily God, but the demigods that are all
now
about...
you're getting into Gnosticism.
Just asking for a friend that looks like me. Just curious, though, because that's one of the things I've often wondered. Jordan Maxwell was the one that got me on that whole "let us make man in our own image" thing, and led me down that path to question, the Elohim in the beginning. Elohim created the heavens and earth. Okay, are these the demigods, that are responsible? Well, let me ask you this: who ultimately, because there's a pyramid of power, who ultimately wrote all these texts that are all about subservience, control, and conformity?
I have no idea.
Is it on planet or off planet, in your opinion?
On planet, from entities not from here.
Oh, really? That's an interesting answer.
It's too deep. But if you read the Bible literally, it doesn't make any sense. And that's why that's why apologetics exists. It's because they want to explain a talking snake and a talking donkey. People take it literally. So they need to come up with a mental wraparound. But it's a lot easier.
Let me ask you this. In your opinion, are we in the age of Pisces or Aquarius?
Okay. So
Or are we transitioning?
let me see. I have to show you the zodiac wheel again in order to answer that.
Okay, I'll get it back up on the screen.
Bear with me for just a second.
Oh, shoot. Yeah,
I'm
it's
going
not.
to open my presentation
Yep.
back up.
Thanks again for being here and showing all this material. It's fascinating.
Hey, I chased you down.
Well, I appreciate it, man. Thank you.
I'm the one that chased you down. I have a whole other presentation too, and then I have a presentation about God too. All right, let's do this real quick. I'm gonna reshare. Can you? Oh, let me.
Yeah.
I have to reshare. Hold on.
Yep. As soon as it pops.
Okay.
Pops
Let me know when it's up on the screen because I can't see.
You went back through and did the whole. Oh, here it is. All right. Yep. It's on. Yep. We got it.
Okay, so check this out, guys. The great year, which is one full revolution of this, is 25,920 years. Okay? If you divide that by 12, each one of these zodiac signs is 2160. Okay? Each one of these zodiac signs is 2160. Now, on a yearly basis, through the year, each one of these signs is 30 days. Now, I told you the cusp right here was 3 days in Gemini and 3 days in Taurus, right? So that's 6 days. There's 30 days in each. So that's 30 and 30. So that's 60 days, but the cusp is 6 days. So 6 out of 60 is 1/10. If you divide 2160 by 30, you get 72. So every 72 years, which incidentally is the average lifespan of a man, it moves 1 degree. So, because each sign is 2160, 2160 times 2 is 4320. So I hope you're following along right here. Is that during the year, this is 30 days, this is 30 days. That's 60 days for 2 signs. The cusp is 6 out of 60 days. So that's 1/10. So what you do for the great year, because it's called the precession of the equinox. So during the year, we go from Aquarius to Pisces to Aries to Taurus. But for the precession of the equinox, to find out where we actually are, you're going backwards. Gemini, Taurus, we were in Aries, we were in Pisces to Aquarius. So you're going to divide this by 10, you get 432, which is a harmonic frequency. That's the cusp. So right now, we are here. We're in the 432-year cusp period between Pisces and Aquarius. Now, if you want to find out what age we're actually in, it's actually pretty simple, but you have to do some legwork. What you have to do is on March 21st, the spring equinox, you have to go to the equator. And what you're going to do is you're going to watch the sunrise on that particular day. The sign behind the sun on that particular day is where we are. And where we are right now is a 432-year time period with Pisces and Aquarius. Pisces was the age of religion, was the age of belief. Aquarius is the age of knowing. which is why we're trying to shed the religion, but we can't really, because we're still dealing with cusp energy from Pisces.
Interesting.
So
The
in a few hundred years, we'll be fully in Aquarius, and that'll be a different story. And I hope that.
yeah, so we're basically transitioning, is what you're saying. It's we're in a transition period, kind of like a cusp.
That's exactly what it is. We're in a trans.
You mentioned the
That's exactly
harmonic.
what it is.
You mentioned the harmonic
We're in the
frequency.
cusp right now.
Exactly. You mentioned the harmonic frequency of 432, which is, as a musician, they kind of fucked with us with that harmonic frequency BS. Starting in the late 1930s, after World War II, they made standard tuning to 440, and it's not in harmony with anything, and people don't realize this.
No.
So I just was curious about your thoughts
There were
on.
people that tried to turn it. There were people that tried to use 432.
Oh yeah, you
Hendrix,
still
Joplin,
can if you want
Morrison.
to. Yeah, but it's not the accepted global standard tuning, which is quite shit, in my opinion. I had a couple other things written down here that I just wanted, because I don't want to take up any more, much more of your time. But while I got you here, there's so many things without revealing any oaths or rituals. Can you explain how symbolism is taught inside Masonry?
Masonry is basically Kabbalah for the Goyim. For those of you who don't know what that is, a Goyim is a non-Jew. Kabbalah is Masonry for a non-Jew. It is completely revolving around Judaism, and they hide it. But the majority of Masonry is built around Solomon's temple.
Sol, moon.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Is there a difference between what lower degrees are taught and what higher degrees are expected to infer?
I've never seen anything that really blew me away.
See, it's my understanding, I'm not a Mason, and I did join a frat, but that's not anywhere close. It's my understanding, though, that when you start in Masonry, you have the Christian Bible and all, but as you go up further, it all of a sudden goes to the Luciferian doctrine. Is that true?
See, I didn't get to see that.
Uh-huh.
I was only a 32.
I've actually, you can find what they say are copies of it online. And actually, there's a lot of fascinating material in there that is not evil or anything. It talks about holistic ways you can cure your own eyesight and stuff like that. I've actually found it quite fascinating as an observer looking at a document. Do most Masons ever reach this level of interpretation that you have?
No. In fact, that's why I left, because they told me it was too risky for the fraternity's reputation and too revealing of the signs. So I said, fuck you, gatekeepers. I've been speaking out against them since then.
Too risky? Why?
I don't know. I wasn't given an answer.
I mean, what the truth?
Right, exactly.
Should these ideas be taught publicly, or are they better suited for personal study?
I think everyone should have access to them, and then however they deal with them, they deal with them.
I agree. At least 9 other deities existed before Jesus with the same stories. And you were talking about that, how it goes all the way back to, Sumerian texts and everything. And that's what made me think about who ultimately was the one responsible for writing these stories. But do you think it went on further than that? Or maybe this is a template for every planet? If there were extraterrestrial visitors that
I don't think so, because in a different solar system or a different area, even if a different solar system exists, I don't know if we have a closed circuit here, to be honest with you. I mean, I think I'm starting to look into the firmament. I'm thinking that either we were quarantined because we're nuts, and because we have nuclear weapons, or a creator created it. So I don't even know if there's other, but assuming that space is what they say it is, um, other areas probably would have their own zodiac or their own stories, their own ways to teach.
You know, I was when I was a kid and went to Sunday school in my Methodist church, my Sunday school teacher called my parents and told them to have me stop asking so many questions. I nearly got kicked out of Sunday school because even as a child, I wasn't buying into what they were teaching me, and it just didn't make sense as a child to me. And I know I came in with some kind of learning because, like, for example, you know, we supposedly came from Adam and Eve, but how do you get 4 different blood types, 2 different RH values from 2 people? That's impossible. You can't do it. Which makes me think that we were seeded here by various galactic star nations, which would explain the differences in ethnicity, blood types, RH values, and language.
Mm-hmm. I'm on board with that.
But I mean, these are the truths that they don't want us even thinking about because, religion's all about, as I mentioned, subservience, control, and conformity. It's the same template as every government.
Mm-hmm. Well said.
I appreciate that. Thanks. Here's your last question. If someone watches this and does nothing else, what's the one question you hope they ask themselves?
To just try and prove me wrong.
Good answer. I would, personally, I was thinking along the lines of, doesn't matter whether you believe me or not, question everything.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but which is basically what you said anyway, in a shorter answer.
Mm-hmm.
Micah, I appreciate you coming on. This is
Let's do a follow-up. Let's do a follow-up at some point.
Yeah, because there are, and I'm sure anyone watching this, if you're watching in live or if you're watching on the recorded version, leave a comment in the video and we'll go back and we'll address these questions.
And guys, my YouTube is Micah Dank Truth Bombs, and my Facebook is Micah Dank if you want to find me there.
You're an hour away. We're both from New York. We both attended SUNY colleges up there in upstate. And
yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah. Oh, I had a quick question for you too. I'm a triple Libra. What the heck does that? I know it's sun, moon, and rising are all in there, but is there anything else?
I'd have to ask my astrologer on that. I'm a Libra too.
Oh, that's right. We're like a week apart, I think. Yeah. So yeah, interesting. Anyway, we have our contact information exchange. Would be great.
Shoot me a text message. Let me know. Just be like, hey.
Yeah, if you want to.
I might have to do it on the fly. I might not be able to plan like a month in advance because I don't know what's going to happen day to day with everything going on. But if we could do something on the fly, sure.
Oh, I was talking, hey, if you just want to hang out and talk off the cuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be cool too. But right now I put all your information below the video, and it's also in the live chat. So you can, anyone watching, you can check it out. Definitely check out and subscribe to Micah's channel, visit his website and his books. And look forward to having you back and going deeper on this. And maybe we'll talk about the beyond astrotheology a little.
Yeah, I would love to do that presentation too.
That'd be great. Okay, hang out here while I just say to everyone, thanks again for watching. Much appreciated. Sending everyone infinite love and light from my heart to yours. Take care and see you the next time. So hang out here with me real quick.